let's talk about the Financial Action Task Force, also known as FATF. That's how we call it here. They said recently that 3/4 of jurisdictions are not in compliance with their global crypto laundering standards. The FATF established a lot of these standards for virtual asset service providers, VASPs. That's what they call people and entities engaged in the cryptocurrency business. And they're saying, hey, you guys got to get your act together. You aren't complying. And by the way, North Korea is using its ill-gotten crypto gains to finance the creation of weapons of mass destruction. Let's talk about this. FATF, I think, has been, FATF is always a standards body, right? They don't really necessarily have the teeth to enforce a lot of these things. So after a multi-year process of establishing the best ways for countries to deal with anti-money laundering in the crypto space, they've rolled out these recommendations and they're saying that, hey, most folks really aren't up to date just yet, but they kind of lack the teeth to make sure that those jurisdictions can comply. So it's a bit of a structural challenge with FATF, I will say. And I do feel like there's two things at play here, and the mentioning of them both in one breath is a little bit disingenuous. Like North Korea, yeah, they're hacking stuff. They're putting hacked crypto into financing bad stuff. The compliance standards around anti-money laundering are more for sort of law-abiding users of these crypto systems. I don't know what the question is to you, Adam, but I'm going to throw this your way. We're talking about another sort of transnational group that's looking to establish consensus around how countries should regulate their crypto sectors. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that, so this is presented as a binary, and I think you laid it out correctly insofar as like there's over here are compliant and then over here is North Korea, right? Like that's the kind of the way that they've framed it here. And the reality of it is that the world is just a lot more complicated than that. And the decision-making calculus around how your system should work is a lot more complicated than that binary. The, FATF is one of many, again, like kind of supranational, Western-led, US-led organizations that acts like it's seeking to find consensus. But really what it's seeking to do is impose consensus. It's seeking to take what it and, the top allies who all benefit from the dollar system want, and then to impose that on everybody else. And they do that by threats of exclusion. They do that by threats of sanctions. We saw action in Pakistan over the last year that spoke to this, where basically FATF was like, hey, you're bad actors. And so as a result of that, they were not able to access certain types of funds that were otherwise available. This is the soft power that is brought to bear on any country that is supposedly sovereign, but which has to ultimately knuckle under to the dollar system, because the dollar system is the global financial system, at least for the time being. So it is not at all surprising at this. And the reason why you're not seeing compliance is because these rules actually don't make sense for many countries that exist out there. They make sense for the folks who run the system. And so, again, their complaints are really complaints that you're hurting our potential to maintain this power. You're potentially lifting up a technology that is beneficial to you, but is not beneficial to the system that we kind of stand atop. So not surprising to me, happy to see it, continue to be happy to see, resistance against the dollar-led system, because it is clearly not in the interest of many nations around there. And that should be a reasonable position to take without them being deemed North Korea. Jen, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the same as both of you. This is reminiscent of the IMF report we just spoke about when it comes to what is the connection actually between these two things. The statement said that North Korea was using illicit virtual assets to finance weapons of mass destruction and called for companies to apply anti-money laundering norms. I think it's really important to point out here a lot of the ways we've heard recently of North Korea actually getting their hands on crypto have been through DeFi hacks, which actually, if these jurisdictions were to apply these AML conditions or these AML standards, it wouldn't change North Korea being able to hack certain bridges or certain DeFi ecosystems, get their hands on that crypto, and then use that crypto to commit crimes. And so I think it's important to highlight that, because this isn't being connected in the report. It feels like we're using North Korea, we're using this big, scary thing that exists in the world to invoke an emotional reaction so that jurisdictions can act faster to stop this bad actor. Zach, you want last words?
Sure. I mean, I think there's always going to be bad actors who are going to help countries like North Korea cash out their crypto into funds that they can use to buy parts for their nuclear missiles, right? So like it's going to be hard to regulate bad actors such as that out of the system. And I think the intertwining of these two things, and we've seen this again with like other reports, like in the U.S. Congress, right? For instance, remember that like the fentanyl report, right? The flow of money from Bitcoin to the fentanyl trade, et cetera, et cetera. It's really hard, I think, for the crypto industry to have to bear the burden of some statistical cherry picking and otherwise like sort of half-baked framing devices that put these two things in conversation with each other. And I think that's probably maybe what the frustrating thing is with reports like this. But all in all, I mean, the aims are good. Like, I think everyone can agree that North Korea doing bad stuff is not cool. And it would be great if, the FATF could stop that. I just am not optimistic that they are the appropriate entity to stop that. Nor will these standards ultimately, if fully embraced, even stop that at all. But I will defer the last word to Adam because I know he is more thoughtful about this stuff. So I shall toss it to him. What do you think?
Well, I'm just going to throw some bombs here for a second. I mean, like, are we really afraid of North Korea? Like, is that really the best boogeyman that we have right now? Because, I mean, again, like, if you look at North Korea compared to Russia, right, and you look at how Russia has done in the Ukraine war, are we even concerned about Russia anymore? Like, why are we concerned about these countries? Why is this the thing that the world needs to band together to focus on rather than the very real problems that we have in many other areas, most notably macroeconomics, in large part because of the way that we go after these countries? So again, this whole thing feels like a silly diversion that's just intended to reinforce the narrative that benefits those who are powerful with really little respect for reality. And to me, the only thing I care about anymore is reality. And it seems like that's not kind of what these organizations are really doing.